Hello guys, good evening. So I'll be here until the next 30 minutes to about 7:30, and I will do my best to answer your questions. Whack them in the comments, and I'll start at the top, I'll work my way to the bottom. So if you've got something to ask, don't delay, ask it really early on. It looks like, God, there's a number of them being asked in advance here on YouTube, so I'll jump straight over onto them. If you are new, first time watching, here on Instagram, over here on YouTube, both of them are Andy Clever Cash. If you want to switch between platforms, then that's where you need to go to. So youtube.com/AndyCleverCash or Instagram.com/AndyCleverCash. And also just want to give you a heads up right now at the beginning that if I don't get around to your question, because we run out of time, and often we do run out of time, there is a community over on Facebook. You'll see the link. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll see the link up here. If you're on Instagram, it's glued to the grid. Short URL for that is becleveryourcash.com/community. That will take you to the Facebook group. You'll have to apply to join. I'll have to accept you, and I do approve posts because I don't want any spammers in there. But that is also a great place to ask questions. And if I don't get it here, hopefully I can pick up after. And sorry, I'm still struggling on YouTube with some tech issues right now. I've moved to my laptop and it seems to be sort of sometimes a little bit jerky and stuff. So I do apologize for that, but listen to what I say. That audio hopefully should be crystal clear and not a problem at all. Right, let's kick off then with some of these questions. So Sid says, hi Andy, is the Amex Gold Card a good option for spendings under $1,000, or can you suggest any better cashback credit cards? Also, what would you make more sense, switching from a Monese or switching from, okay, right, let's start with the Amex Gold thing first of all. The Amex Preferred Rewards Gold credit card. If you are happy to convert your points into Nectar points, and basically the way you do that is you convert the Amex points first into Avios points and then into Nectar points, you get an increased value. They work out at 0.8% back. Now that can be beaten on a different Amex, the Amex Nectar card, also Nectar card points, right? But the reason why the gold one is often a standout one for people is because if you haven't had an Amex in the last 2 years, then the welcome bonus, if you convert that welcome bonus into Avios, into Nectar points, can be worth about 186k. But you do have to, 186k, God, that would be amazing, wouldn't it? 186 pounds in Nectar points. But you do have to spend 3,000 pounds in 3 months to trigger that. Sometimes it's boosted, so I'd often hang around and wait for that to be boosted even further, about 280 maybe. That's great. However, if you're not going to spend $3,000 in 3 months, essentially here you're not going to, then I would look at the one that gives you the best cashback rate. And that absolutely right now is either going to be the American Express Nectar card. As I said, you get 2 Nectar points per £1 spent, which is the equivalent of 1%, or the Chase debit card. Appreciate it's a debit card, not a credit card, so you will miss out on some of that consumer Section 75 protection that comes with that if something costs more than £100. But that will give you 1% back for 12 months. And because it is, I can't remember if it's a Visa or a MasterCard. I think it's a MasterCard. Then you can use that everywhere. Whereas Amex, you might find some places don't accept it. Now, I do obviously have guides on the website with all the different options. There are many more. So do check that out, becleveryourcash.com. You've also asked quickly, I won't get through some other people, because what would make more sense? Switching from a Monese or a Revolut account? Quick answer there is neither, because you can't use the current account switching service from Monese or with Revolut. They are not fully regulated banks here in the UK. They are regulated, but they're not fully licensed as banks, so therefore you can't use them for the switching service. You can switch from from Monzo or Starling. They're part of the current account switching service if you wish. So let's jump over to Instagram. Hello to all of you guys there. Lovely to see you. Andrew says, if my remortgage is due at the end of April with Barclays, when should I start looking for deals? Oh, that's a really complicated one. Normally, when you are able to remortgage, you can, with some providers, you can lock in 3 to 6 months in advance. So you don't have to wait for your fix to end. You can start getting a deal and secured, say, it would depend on the provider, up to 6 months. Sometimes it's 3 months. Sometimes with your existing provider, you can also do up to 6 months, but it might be closer to 3 months. The problem you've got there is obviously what if rates drop? Doesn't matter, because you've got that deal. You don't have to take it. You can scrap it and go for another one. April is very, very close to end of April. So you would be looking at the start of November, end of this month, wouldn't you, for 6 months ahead? So maybe you could actually get locked in a few months' time. It's possibly worth talking to a mortgage, what do you call them? Mortgage advisor, just to get a sense as well of things, because there may well be a reason to sort of ditch it earlier, depending what the early termination fees are. You might save more now rather than waiting a few weeks. But the thing is, the mortgage market is in such turmoil, it's really hard to say. But yeah, that's hopefully with you a bit of help there. Jenny says, hi Andy, I'm coming to the end of paying off all my debts. Fantastic, that's brilliant, well done Jenny. So I'm going forwards from next January, we'll have around £800 per calendar month to save or invest. What product would you suggest in the current climate? Well, straight away, this is the best thing to do. So if you have any kind of spare money, is to pay off those debts. So fantastic for doing that. Next, before you think about investing or anything like that, is to make sure you build up an emergency fund. And broadly, the rule of thumb that people often talk about is 3 to 6 months. You might want more than that. If you look back to how the pandemic went, you might think, oh, do you know what? I'd like to have 9 months or a year's worth of essential expenses there. So that's covering your mortgage or your rent, your bills. Obviously, they're getting more expensive, so you need a bit more there. Food, if you have to drive to get to work, then or look for work if you lost your job or something like that, you know, money for petrol, basically anything that can mean that if you can't work, you can't earn money, you will secure yourself. So that absolutely is the first thing to do. Put that money into an emergency fund, build that up. Look at putting more into your pension, making sure you're getting the full amount of matching contribution from your employer. Considering overpaying your mortgage right now, it might be that makes more sense than additional savings. And if you have a lot of money and you're going much longer term, then you can look at investing. Let's go back to YouTube. Kuzumir says, hope you're well. I wanted to ask you about cash deposits. How much can you deposit at once? Do different banks react differently? What are the pros and cons of cash deposits? So yes, they will obviously vary bank by bank. Some of the newer ones, your likes of Monzo and Starling, obviously they don't have branches. And you can put money, I think with Starling, you can put money into the post office, but again, that's capped. With Monzo, you can put them into, deposit them in other places, but again, that's capped. If you're looking at a normal branch, I don't know all the different ins and outs for different banks, but they will allow larger amounts. If it's as personal deposits, of course, if it's a business deposit, then that's all about your business bank account, and there will often be charges for depositing cash or paying in checks, all this kind of thing. So I guess that's the thing. If you've got a lot of money coming in as an individual, that would be different to as a business. They may well have some checks that come into play to make sure you're not laundering money for somebody else as well, and have to prove where that money will come from. Sam says, hope you're well. Is it worth getting my Amex Nectar? Getting the Amex Nectar after my cashback with Chase runs out. I'm not eligible for the Amex or Barclays card Avios welcome bonus currently. So the thing with the Amex Nectar, I mentioned at the top of the show, there is an annual fee for this, I didn't say, which is free in the first year, but after that, I think it's 25, maybe 30 quid a year. So that obviously will eat into the money you get back over that year. So what you want to do then is compare that to some of the free cards out there. Broadly, if you're spending enough on it, that will wipe out that, because your 1% is much better than the next best one, and say 0.8% on the gold, and that's only free for a year, then it's 140 quid in year 2. The Platinum Cashback credit card, that one pays 0.75% back on any spending up to 10k, then it does jump up over 10k, but that one also comes with an annual fee. So again, look at the different spending you're doing a year. It may well be every year you change your card, you get your free card every year, switch to another one, free card, switch to another one, so as long as you're eligible for that. Martin says, tried RAN saving account for a month and I'm impressed despite the bad reviews. Credit in to them take longer at the weekend, so that's worth knowing about as well. Thanks for that, Martin, really good to know. Yeah, because that is, as Martin says, that is at 2.35% the highest paying easy access account right now for like total amount of cash. There's no cap on it. There is a minimum £5,000 though to open that account, so won't be for everyone. Demetrius says, oh hang on, I missed this one from Rich. Do that one first one. Rich and Mitch. Hi Andy, how long is the nationwide 200 quid switch offer on for? I've got a 60 to 90 day wait for my Santander to give me my 175 for that switch. So interestingly, I've had a few people report to me that the Santander money has come sooner. So long as you've met those requirements, you've got those direct debits in, you've paid the money, all that kind of stuff, it may well be you get that money earlier, which is fantastic. In terms of how long that nationwide offer will be running, don't know, there is no end date for it. I would be surprised if they cancel it so soon. They had the £125 offer running for about 14 months. And then this one's just in, but you just never know. The market, the situation can change. They might increase it. You just really never know. They might decrease it. But I would say if you're really worried about that, you could always set up a dummy account. Again, there's a whole article on the blog, whole video on the YouTube channel, telling you through different ways you can set up this dummy account and use that just for switching. So that's something to consider. But bear in mind, every time you open an account, there will be a credit check. So if there's any kind of thing, big important things coming along in the next few months, next 6 months even, particularly with a mortgage, you might want to hold back. If your score is very good, and I've done this before, but again, you can't do it, because I've done it doesn't mean you'll be able to do it, but I've actually had a couple of bank applications and a credit card application in a cashback one, all within a few weeks of each other, and it's done a little dent on my score, but then after a few months it's gone back up. I've had nothing major to worry about, my score was like right at the top anyway. But again, everyone's individual there, so do be careful. Dimitri's talking about the same thing here. So what do you think? Can I switch from HSBC to Nationwide for £200? While I've got one derogatory mark, which is satisfied, drop off next year and credit score marked as fair, or will they reject me? It's really hard to know because you're opening a current account, exactly what they'll be looking for there. It may well be they don't mind so much having something on there, something like that on your credit score, on your credit report, or they might go, actually, no, we're not going to give you a normal account. We might only give you a basic account, in which case, then they're not going to be able to do that switching offer. There is a way with that Nationwide Flex Direct account to do an eligibility search, because the Flex Direct account has two different options going on with that. This one gives you either 5% for a year and £1.5 grand. You only get it the first time you open the account, you only get it for 12 months, or you get a 0% overdraft for 12 months, again, only for the first time you get it. And that will give you a sense of how much of an overdraft you're going to get. So maybe as a workaround, you could do a soft application for that to see out what kind of overdraft you would get with them, if anything at all, even if you're not going to use it. And that will give you an indication of whether they're going to give you an account. But I can't guarantee that one at all. So let's do it, Alexia. Hello. How much money is required to keep a current account active or open? My regular saver with Natwest, is maxed out this month, so I won't be using the current account. But is it required to hold one? Yeah, so every single current account will have a different terms and conditions. Some of them, you can just have it there doing absolutely nothing. And I've got some old accounts that I've used in the past. I've got an old TSB one, I've got a Nationwide one. Not used them for a year. They've just been sitting there, and they're quite handy to keep hold of in case switching deals come along. Other accounts, those particular accounts, may have a requirement that you have to pay in a certain amount of money every single month in order to activate a certain reward. Now, if you're not bothered about that monthly reward, then you don't have to pay that money in as well, so that's fine. Others might charge you a fee. If you don't pay in a certain amount of money, you'll get charged a fee, so you want to make sure that money goes into that account. And others, there will be some, like the HSBC Advanced one, for example, which might require you to have money going in every single month. Again, they're all different, all these different accounts. So just have a look at the terms and conditions, see what they say. If you are looking at an account, so this Natwest one, if it is a Natwest reward account, for example, you have the 2 direct debits coming out of there. And if you do that and some money going in, then you would also get a monthly reward from them. Then obviously you want to make sure the money is going into that to activate that. And that one does have a fee as well. So you really want to make sure you get that reward, otherwise you're losing out. Splot says, have you ever heard of Gatehouse Bank, and what do you reckon of them? So yeah, Gatehouse are a Sharia compliant bank, which means rather than give interest, they give an expected profit rate. There's a few of them out there that do that. Al Rayyan, which I spoke about earlier, is similar. Often they're at the top of the savings tables, if not at the top, near the top, often quite competitive, trying to get customers into their money. The expected profit return rather than interest, you'll still get it pretty much. It's been very, very unlikely you wouldn't get it, and it's still protected by the financial services guarantee scheme. So from that point of view, they're safe. Gatehouse also markets itself as an ethical bank in terms of a green bank, but there's not a huge amount of detail on there in terms of actually how that works, and does it work for every single account. Some accounts will be very particular. This is a green one. Others, it doesn't say that. So if you're going to look at them, just make sure the account you're going to apply for fits into whatever it is you're wanting to get. If you're just after a high rate and it's offering the highest rate, then go for it. It would be absolutely fine. The thing with any savings account, doesn't matter who it is, whether it's Sharia or whether it's interest paying, they're all going to be, there's too many of them for me to go, yes, thumbs up, this is a great account. What it comes down to really will be customer service if there's a problem. Hopefully there isn't a problem, but customer service, and maybe have a look and see if there's any reviews out there, what people say of them. Bear in mind that most of the time people give reviews, it's because something's gone bad. So not everyone shouts about something because it's good. But also things like the app, how long it takes for money to come out, if it's easy access, is it straight away, are there problems at weekends? Because they're different scale. Sometimes they're massive places, they've got loads of people, sometimes it's a small building society. So that information will hopefully be available on their website. You can get a sense of, could there be any faff going on there? And again, how often you want to access it. Like what's Synergy, for example. I've used that on and off over the years, been perfectly fine, but logging in, you have to get a QR code up on your phone. Well, not even a QR code, special security code. Then you get get that on your desktop, then you get your phone, you scan it with an app, then that gives a code, you type it all in. It's fine, it's not the end of the world, but it's not as simple as just going in and typing things and sending your money across. Just be aware of those differences between different savings accounts. So Mike Tyler over on Instagram, he says, how do I get a credit card? I have applied twice. So credit cards. I've got a whole video about first-time credit cards and actually an article on the blog as well. So go to the YouTube channel /AndyCleverCash or becleveryourcash.com. Search for first-time credit card, beginner credit cards, and you have all the information there. The key tip for you here is to do a soft check, an eligibility search. This is where you don't apply for a card with any particular card. Ideally, go to a comparison site. You put details in, you give it permission to essentially look at your credit report, but this search does not appear on your credit report, and it will give you often a mark out of 10 or a percentage of the likelihood of getting accepted for a card. Obviously 0 out of 10 means you're not going to get it, but 1 out of 10 means there is a chance you're going to get it, but it's better to go for something if there's 9 out of 10 or even 10 out of 10 where you're pre-approved. So but check out that video with more information there. Rascal says, thank you so much for your switching account information. It has made me thousands. That is what I love to hear. I'm really pleased that so many of you are making a decent amount of money for this. It's one of my favorite ways, easiest ways to make some cash, which is why that new TSB one's quite exciting to me, because it's been a while since I could switch, and this is a first brand new offer in a while, so I'm going to take advantage of that one myself. What's going on here? Hi Andy, this is from Andrew. If you had the nationwide individual switch early this year, is it possible to take advantage of the joint switch? Yeah, so the nationwide is quite different to a lot of the other switching offers in that you can have an individual offer, amount of money, and you could also have another set for a joint account. Now, that joint account is one payment per account, so you can't both get the money for that. You'll get it once for that account. But that means as a couple, £200 for you now, £200 for them now, or if they did it in the past, 100/125, depending what deal they got. And then joint account, it's another single payment as well. So right now, if you're brand new to it, I appreciate you've had it before, but if someone is brand new to Nationwide as a couple, that's £600 they could get from switching into those 3 accounts, which is absolutely fantastic. Miniman says, evening Andy, hello. Always nice to see the regulars. I see the newbies as well, but it's always nice to see the regular faces popping along. Werewolf 906 says, would you switch from Virgin Money M Plus Save to Nationwide Flex Direct? Would it be an upgrade? So, this is, I mentioned it in my savings update last Sunday, I think this went out. Yeah, on the YouTube channel. I would suggest holding off applying for the Nationwide Flex Direct account right now. The one I mentioned a moment ago with a 5% interest on £1,500 for a year. Because if we do see interest rates continue to rise, maybe that will either increase how much money you can get 5% at, or they might increase the rates. It's impossible to know. But because also Barclays with the Blue Reward Rainy Day Saver account has come along offering 5.12% on £5,000, that kind of covers everyone's base. That's the top place to go right now anyway in terms of savings. Now, if Werewolf, if you're talking about it in terms of actually as a current account, your day-to-day use of a bank, again, I've got plenty of videos talking through my favourite accounts, which ones I like the best. My favourite one, just in terms of user experience, is Starling Bank. That's the one I like most of all. I find it the easiest one to operate and move my money around and see where things are going. That is my favourite one. The Nationwide app and even the Virgin apps aren't top of my list personally. If you don't want to go to a digital-only bank, you want to have a high street presence, then I potentially would look at Halifax, Lloyds or Barclays, because their apps, I think, are that next level. They're kind of not as good as Starling, but they do a lot of those good things on there and very easy to use and get things done. Yeah, Sam Bam Bam, I saw this the other day. Someone actually got in touch, told me about this. The Nationwide Flex Save Regular Saver has been pulled. This is paying 3% every single month, but it disappeared possibly on Friday. I'm not sure why that is. Normally they're quite good at communicating things, the Nationwide Press Office. I'm hoping that's because they're going to relaunch a different kind of regular saver, potentially with a higher interest rate. If they do, I will obviously write about it on the blog and give you a video update as well. So yeah, keep your ears open for that, your eyes peeled. Good time to actually plug the newsletter. It goes out every single Thursday at 7 a.m. becleveryourcash.com/newsletter is how you can sign up for it. It is free, it won't cost you anything. But that also contains the best of everything I've done, blog, podcast, and YouTube every single week, all in one place, plus some nice deals you might want to get hold of as well. So if you're not able to keep an eye on anything every single day, which I appreciate it's going to be pretty hard, that's a good place to kind of make sure you don't miss out on any updates. But yeah, interesting one there. I'm hoping that it's going to come back at a higher rate, so I'll let you know. PS, just saw you on Channel 5. Yeah, so last time I did, they must be repeating it. When I did the live last time, I was on Channel 5 at the same time as doing the live. And if they're doing that now, that's a bit of weird timing for me. I'm obviously just counter-programming myself. Watch me here and watch that later on if you want to. Riyad says, thanks for doing this, Andy. It's a pleasure, Riyad. I love doing this. I love chatting to you guys on these lives. Martha says, hi, Andy. Best credit cards for cashback. Touched on that earlier on in the live. So if you just come in now, rewind, watch that bit, and that'll hopefully give you that information. Let's quickly just check over here. Any new questions on Instagram? It's always a little bit easier to miss these ones. Kate says, I have a balance of nearly £500 with Vanquis credit card. I want to do a balance transfer, but keep getting declined for them all. That's really frustrating. So going back to what I said, if you heard me talk about this a moment ago about doing the eligibility check on a range of different credit cards on a comparison site, I quite like Money Saving Experts version of this because that's linked into their free credit report for Experience, their credit club, but it isn't whole of market. You will not see all the cards. So just because you might, if you try that one and there aren't none of them come along, doesn't mean you can't try other comparison sites or other individual cards. Just do that eligibility search. Again, more of that is explained in the videos and in the articles. So that's going to give you a bit more detail about what an eligibility search is, or a soft search, sometimes that's called. Luke says, hi Andy, I've been in my arranged overdraft recently and I am currently. Should I wait until I'm out of that before trying to switch? Thanks for all your help. So this is a really interesting one, Luke, with overdrafts. I think a lot of people don't realise this, that overdrafts are one of the most expensive ways to borrow money. They are borrowing money as well. Some people don't realise they're borrowing. They think, oh, it's just an extension of the account, it's fine. And you see the money come in and the charges and you're like, oh, well, yeah, it's a small amount, whatever it might be. But it's 40% pretty much. Most of them it's 39.5, 39.9, 40, depends which account you've got. But the vast majority of them up there, that's more expensive than most credit cards or catalogue debts or other ways of borrowing. So ideally, if you have any savings at all, you want to wipe out that overdraft, okay? Just try to avoid the overdraft if you can, okay? Likewise, if you do have a cheap, if you can't get out of it and you're in a situation right now where you're struggling, but you do have a credit card, it's better to spend on the credit card than it is on your overdraft most of the time, not every time, but compare those rates because again, it is the most expensive way to borrow. What I would suggest to you here actually is have a look at that Flex Direct from Nationwide, that account I mentioned earlier on. Depends how big your overdraft is, but that one I say will give you an overdraft of, the size can vary depending on your credit score, but that one for a year at 0%. So that gives you a chance to really clear that and get rid of it. If it's just an occasional amount that happens every now and again, £50, £100, whatever it might be, then maybe have a look at the First Direct First account. That has a £250 0% buffer. So if you do go over a little bit, you're not going to get charged anything at all. So they're the priorities. What you can switch if you have an overdraft, and in fact, if you did that, the money that you get might actually wipe out the overdraft. So that's worth considering as well. But again, every bank might have different criteria on there, and you'll have to obviously apply for an overdraft with them. They might reject that in terms of moving that amount of money over. But yeah, absolutely, I would just focus on that overdraft, trying to get that down if you can, because it's a very, very expensive way to borrow. So Mini Max responded to me about the quality. It's a bit max headroom, so I'm a bit sort of, I don't know what's going on. I'm really sorry. I've tried all these different things, but I really apologise. I'm hoping I can get it in a few weeks' time. I'll be back on my desktop because that's being sorted out at the moment, and that might be the problem, just processing power. The laptop might be the issue. Benjamin R says, I got accepted on my first credit card the other week. How much should I aim to be spending a month to start building up my credit report to hopefully get a mortgage? So again, I would refer you to the sort of first time credit card article and video that I've got. That's give you lots of information, so check those out. But very broadly, don't spend money on a credit card, your first credit card, any credit card that you can't afford. So this should be about spending money which is regular spending. Often a great way to do that is your supermarket spending or petrol or train tickets, whatever it might be, the things you are spending every single month anyway, putting them on there and then clearing it off fully in full at the end of the month, ideally with a direct debit. There's something called credit utilization, which can be a useful kind of boost to your credit report. And that's often about a percentage of your total credit limit that you're using. And the rough rule here, for this Experian told me, it's much more concrete in America, but in the UK it's a bit more fluid. But if you can aim to have around 30% utilization on your card, so if you had £1,000 credit limit, you spent £300 a month, that would potentially demonstrate to some lenders, and everyone does it a little bit differently, but that would demonstrate a kind of responsible spending. You're not going to your max every single month, which would suggest you maybe can't afford more than that, and you're just having it sitting there. So maybe aim for that, and see if that gives you a little bit of a boost, a little bit of help that way. Okay. Dave says the best ISA. If you're talking about cash ISAs, Dave, it's currently, top of my head, 2.25%, I think, with Virgin Money. Head to becleveryourcash.com/savings. That is where I do every single weekday, twice a day, 3 times a day, who knows how often, depends because things have been moving a lot recently. I update all the best buy tables, not just ISAs, but also easy access, 1 year fixes, regular savers, all that kind of stuff. So that's the best place to go. But yeah, for a cash ISA, the highest paying one right now is where you're looking. But do you need a cash ISA? That depends how much you have in savings and what the rates you're getting, because don't forget there is a personal savings allowance. Again, go to the website, just search personal savings allowance or tax on savings, similarly on YouTube, and you'll get a whole video or article explaining how that works. AT Sophie over here on Instagram says, does opening multiple accounts affect your credit score? Yes, it can. Multiple current accounts, multiple credit cards, multiple mobile phone contracts if you wanted to, and anything. So basically, every time your credit report is checked, then that will have an impact. A hard check will have an impact on your credit report. And if we're talking about current accounts here and switching current accounts, I have got a video, an article taking you through that. So do check that one out. But that one kind of also explains the fact that there may be, when you close an account, in fact, this is credit cards as well, not just current accounts. When you close them, that can also have an impact. And a closure could be part of a switch, or just generally because you don't want it anymore, because there's longevity, how long you've had a product, a relationship with that bank, and often it averages out over multiple products rather than an individual one. That can also have an impact on your score. They like to have some sort of loyalty of some kind, but again, it doesn't have to be everything. What else we've got going on here? Nick says, any update on when the second cost of living payment of £324 is going to be? Yeah, I saw something about this the other day. It is soon. It is coming soon. I think it is this month. Anyone knows, please put it in the comments below. I did see that. I didn't quite clock the date when it was, but yes, it will be soon. And this is for people who are on certain benefits. So if you're eligible, you're getting this anyway. If you are eligible and haven't applied, it will now probably be too late for you to get onto that kind of list. And if you're not eligible, then you won't get it at all. Jaspin Fox says, hi Andy, big follower of yours. Can I ask if I got a second credit card out for my partner, like a joint one? Okay. Will his credit score affect me? So you cannot get joint credit cards. They don't exist. What you can get is a supplementary credit card. And a supplementary credit card, and I do this often with my wife, and in fact, I've done it the other way around as well, where I've been the supplementary card holder. And we often do this when there's like a welcome bonus or cashback, because you're both spending on the same account in order to get that trigger, that bonus, which is fantastic. So that one is, they have their name on it, but it's not theirs. So any of the spending they do on it, any trouble they might get into, so you've got to make sure they fully understand what's going on with the spending. You will be responsible for. You will have to pay it off. It is your account. That's a supplementary card. So that's the only way you can do that. And there are other benefits you get from that as well, but sometimes they can be, you might expect a benefit will be extended to your supplementary card holder, and it isn't. Section 75, for example, that one can be a little bit of a grey area. Sometimes a supplementary card holder won't get Section 75 protection. So if you might find it's better, depending on what your wife's credit score is, if she wants her own card, her own protection, her own benefits, for her to apply for a card outright on her own. But there is no joint credit card. Stephen says, hi Andy, I'm with Lloyds and wanted to switch another account to them. Phone Lloyds customer service and they said, because I had 1.97% interest every month, I can't have it. I think they got it wrong. That's interesting. Yeah, I'm not quite sure if you send me a note, Stephen, on that one, a bit more information about that, and I'll try and maybe look at, maybe go to the Facebook group, post there, and I can ask you back and forth a few more questions about what's going on there. Nathan says, is it now worth looking into cash ISA for savings to avoid getting stung by tax? Potentially. It all comes down to how much you have saved up and how much interest, what the rate of interest is. Again, did a whole video, tax on savings, whole article on this. Check that out. That kind of explains and gives a few examples as well of what kind of levels you might be needing to be getting in terms of interest and balances to go over those personal savings allowance. Also depends on what your tax rate is, whether you get a £1,000 personal savings allowance or a £500 one. Or none at all if you're an additional rate taxpayer, which now isn't being scrapped. How are we doing for this? Oh, a couple of minutes. Right, okay. Peter Morvay says, can I pay off one credit card with a second one? What you can do is a balance transfer, which would transfer the balance over from one card to another. So you have to apply for a new credit card. If you're accepted for that, they'll give you a certain amount of money you can transfer over. There will be a fee for this with a lot of them, but not all of them. And that will move the card over and keep it at a 0% rate. The longer they are, the higher the transfer fee. Some of them, maybe around 18 months, you might not have to pay a transfer fee on them. So that's, you think you can pay off that debt in that time. They're obviously going to be cheaper ones to go for. Also worth having a look, in addition to which ones you're most likely to get, at cashback sites like Quidco and Top Cashback, because they might be a £20 or £30 bonus for opening a card with them, which again, that might wipe out a transfer fee or might even just save you a little bit more money as well. How are we doing? Oh dear, okay, let's just do a couple more. Colin says, I currently have overpay my mortgage, which is at 1.29%. Am I right to say that I would be better off putting that overpayment into a savings account 5% like Barclays than only put it back if rates swing back? Yes. Whichever is higher. So if you're mortgage is say 4% and your best savings you can get is 2%, then the mortgage makes more sense. I mean, it's not quite obviously as clear as that, because if it's in the mortgage, you can't get it back. But broadly, the one that's going to save you the most money is whichever one pays you at the highest rate. Red Sword Music. Are you going to be making a video website post about the new Barclays Avios plus 100,000 Avios points and whether it's cost effective? Yes, I am going to do that. I'm going to look into that. Very broadly, for those of you who don't know it, if you have the BA Barclays card, Avios credit card, or the paid one, and also if you have the Barclays Premier account, which requires an income of 75k a year or a lot of money saved in their investments, you can get an Avios bonus on top of that, which could be good. I will look into that into more detail, but you have to be eligible for both of those, which might not be. You've got to pay the fees and all of that kind of stuff. Okay, guys, I'm really out of time. Let me just quickly check over on Insta. Rascal says, would you recommend Raisin? No reason why not to use them. Just make sure you're getting the best possible rate. The app's okay. I've used it in the past. I've had it in the past. Tells you what's going in, the money that's going in. Yeah, it does the job that you want it to do. Nave says, any opinion on Tread Bank? I've seen their adverts around. I haven't looked into them properly. I will be at some point. I wouldn't jump at them just yet. AT Sophie, how often are you allowed to switch accounts? As often as you wish. The only things that might stop you are if there are requirements within an account that you keep it for a certain amount of time in order to get a bonus. Okay, so you've got to bear that in mind. And as I mentioned before, there might be some impact on your credit reports if you are constantly opening accounts and switching accounts. This one, so Ben says, what is the point of the Barclays Blue rewards other than getting the new 5% savings account? There isn't one. There used to be a monthly reward you'd get, but it's pretty pointless now. But it does feel like maybe they're going to start moving things up, ramping things up. Any updates, obviously, I'll let you know on the newsletter, on the blog, on the Instagram, on the podcast, YouTube, wherever it is I do stuff. I'll give you the updates on that. And let me, I'm so sorry, guys. So many questions. Remember, head over to the Facebook group, becloveryourcash.com/community. That is where you can whack in those questions that you've answered here that I've not been able to answer. I'll do another one of these in a week and a half, 2 weeks, something like that. So keep an eye out for that. Till then, have a lovely rest of the evening and we will speak again soon. Cheers, guys.